Paolo Di Canio. Few goal celebrations in football history have caused as much outrage as Paolo Di Canio's infamous salute. It was 2005. Lazio had just beaten their bitter rivals, and Di Canio, a fiery, passionate forward, turned to the crowd, raised his right arm straight in the air, and froze. For some fans, it looked like pride. For the rest of the world, it looked like a fascist salute, a gesture directly linked to Italy's dark Mussolini-era past. The moment spread across newspapers and TV within hours. He claimed it wasn't political, just a salute to my people. But it didn't matter. He was fined, condemned by politicians, and instantly became one of the most divisive players in Europe. Even years later, when Di Canio tried to move into management, that single celebration followed him everywhere. It wasn't just a football gesture. It was a reminder that sometimes 1 second on the pitch can define an entire career. Giorgos Katidis. Now imagine being just 20 years old, scoring a goal for your boyhood club, and ruining your entire international career seconds later. That's exactly what happened to Giorgos Katidis in 2013. After scoring for AEK Athens, he sprinted to the crowd, lifted his arm in a Nazi salute, and the stadium froze. Within hours, videos flooded the internet. Outrage swept through Greece. Katidis insisted he didn't know what the gesture meant, but the Greek Football Federation didn't buy it. They handed him a lifetime ban from the national team, calling it a deep insult to all victims of Nazi crimes. Overnight, he went from rising star to outcast. Today, Katidis plays in lower divisions, and that one moment remains one of football's most extreme examples of how ignorance and emotion can destroy potential in an instant. Nicolas Anelka. In December 2013, veteran striker Nicolas Anelka scored for West Bromwich Albion in the Premier League, and then did something few understood at first. He crossed one arm over the other, hand pointing down, a move known in France as the canal. To some, it looked like a quirky dance pose, but in France, the gesture had been popularized by a comedian accused of anti-Semitism, making it a politically loaded symbol. Within days, the Football Association charged Anelka with bringing the game into disrepute. He claimed it was a sign of support for his friend, not hate, but the FA still issued a 5-match ban and an £80,000 fine. Sponsors pulled out, West Brom terminated his contract, and his Premier League career effectively ended there. The Canal incident became a textbook case of how a gesture that might seem harmless in one context can carry explosive meaning in another. Xherdan Shaqiri and Granit Xhaka. The 2018 World Cup was supposed to be about football, not politics, but for Switzerland's Shaqiri and Xhaka, one celebration changed everything. In a tense group stage match against Serbia, both players, of Kosovan Albanian heritage, scored crucial goals, and after each goal, they crossed their hands on their chest to form a double-headed eagle, the symbol of Albania. To them, it was a proud nod to their roots, but to Serbian fans, it was an unmistakable political statement, a reminder of Kosovo's war-torn past and deep national divisions. FIFA immediately opened an investigation, eventually fining both players for unsporting behavior. Neither was banned, but the images became global headlines. For a few seconds of passion, Shaqiri and Xhaka had reignited decades of tension, showing how powerful and dangerous symbolism can be when mixed with football emotion. Paul Gascoigne. The Old Firm derby between Rangers and Celtic isn't just about football, it's about history, religion, and identity. In 1998, Paul Gascoigne, one of the most gifted yet unpredictable players of his generation, found himself at the center of that storm. After scoring for Rangers, he lifted an imaginary flute to his lips and pretended to play it, marching in place. It looked funny to some, but in Scotland it carried a very specific meaning. It mimicked a loyalist flute band tied to Protestant and Unionist culture. For Celtic fans whose club is rooted in Catholic and Irish heritage, it was a deep provocation. Within days, Gascoigne was fined £20,000 and accused of inflaming sectarian tension. He later apologized, saying he didn't fully understand the symbolism, but the damage was done. It became a reminder that in rivalries this intense, even a small gesture can pour fuel on centuries of history. Robbie Fowler. Few celebrations have ever caused as much chaos or laughter as Robbie Fowler's snorting the goal line moment. It happened in 1999 during the fiery Merseyside derby between Liverpool and Everton. Everton fans had been taunting Fowler for weeks with chants accusing him of drug use, so when he scored, Fowler decided to answer back in the most outrageous way possible. He dropped to the ground, got on all fours, and pretended to snort the white line next to the goalpost. The stadium erupted, some laughing, others booing. The referee didn't see the funny side. He booked Fowler and the FA fined him £60,000, calling it disgraceful conduct. Even Liverpool's manager, Gerard Houllier, tried to defend it by saying Fowler was pretending to eat grass celebration. No one bought it. It's still one of football's wildest examples of a player trolling rival fans and paying the price for it. Emmanuel Adebayor. When Emmanuel Adebayor scored against his former club Arsenal in 2009, he didn't just celebrate, he declared war. After a controversial move from Arsenal to Manchester City, fans had called him greedy, disloyal, and worse. So when he scored against them, he ran, not a few steps but the entire length of the pitch, just to slide on his knees in front of the Arsenal fans. What followed was chaos. Furious supporters surged toward the barrier, bottles were thrown, and police had to step in. Adebayor was booked, fined £25,000, and later admitted that he had been overwhelmed with emotion. He said, "If they insult your family, your mother, your father, you can't just smile. But to this day, that sprint remains one of the most infamous revenge celebrations in Premier League history, part fury, part theatre, and 100% unforgettable. Tim Cahill. Tim Cahill was never a troublemaker, which made his 2008 celebration for Everton all the more shocking. After scoring, he ran to the corner flag and brought his wrists together as if wearing handcuffs. It looked odd to the crowd, until he later revealed the reason. It was a show of support for his jailed brother, Sean Cahill. Fans were split. Some praised the loyalty, others said it was completely inappropriate for a football pitch. Cahill apologized but insisted it was an emotional, personal moment. To this day, it's remembered as one of football's rare examples of a player breaking the rules not for ego, but for family. David Norris. A few months after Cahill's incident, Ipswich Town's David Norris decided to do the same thing. He scored in a championship match and copied the handcuffed celebration in front of the cameras. But unlike Cahill, this wasn't for a family member. Norris was showing support for a former teammate who was serving time for causing death by dangerous driving. That gesture crossed the line for many fans and journalists. The FA hit him with a heavy fine and his club publicly condemned the act. Norris apologized, saying he didn't mean to offend anyone, but the damage was done. It proved that in football, context matters. Two players can do the same celebration, but one act of loyalty can look like another man's bad judgment. Carlos Tevez. In South American football, few rivalries run deeper than Boca Juniors versus River Plate, and Carlos Tevez lit a fire under it in 2004. In the Copa Libertadores semi-final, Tevez scored for Boca, ripped off his shirt, and started flapping his arms like a chicken. To River fans, it was pure mockery, because River Plate had long been nicknamed Las Gallinas, meaning the chickens, a taunt about choking under pressure. The referee didn't hesitate. Tevez was shown a second yellow card and sent off. The crowd exploded, police flooded the pitch, and the match nearly descended into chaos. Even though Boca won, Tevez's celebration overshadowed everything else. It was funny, daring, and utterly disrespectful, and it cemented Tevez as both a hero to Boca fans and a villain to River forever. Jude Bellingham. At Euro 2024, England's golden boy Jude Bellingham scored a 95th minute overhead kick against Slovakia, a goal that kept England alive in the tournament. But instead of a calm celebration, Bellingham turned toward the crowd and made a crotch-grabbing gesture, shouting something under his breath. The cameras caught everything. Within minutes, social media exploded. UEFA opened an investigation and Bellingham was fined €30,000 and handed a suspended one-match ban. He later said it was directed at friends in the stands, not the opposition, but many saw it as arrogant and disrespectful. It became one of those defining Euro moments, a superstar showing raw emotion in a high-pressure game and learning the hard way that every second on camera lives forever. Merih Demiral. Just days later, another controversy stole headlines, this time from Turkey's Merih Demiral. After scoring twice against Austria at Euro 2024, Demiral celebrated by making a wolf salute with his hands, a gesture associated with a Turkish nationalist movement called the Grey Wolves. To Turkish fans, it looked patriotic. To UEFA and many others, it was a political symbol, banned from football grounds. UEFA suspended Demiral for 2 matches, sparking outrage in Turkey and a wave of political debate across Europe. For some, he was a hero standing proud for his country. For others, he brought politics onto the pitch. It was a moment that perfectly showed how celebrations can carry meanings far beyond the game itself, even when players insist they're just showing passion. Václav Černý. In 2025, a tense Old Firm derby between Rangers and Celtic had one more flashpoint nobody expected. Rangers winger Václav Černý, instead of celebrating normally, he turned toward the furious Celtic fans, grabbed a water bottle and squirted it into the crowd. Security stepped in immediately and police were called after the game. The footage went viral, and although he avoided a long ban, Černý was heavily criticized for provoking supporters. It wasn't political or symbolic, it was pure emotion turned into bad judgment. Even in a world full of wild celebrations, spraying the opposition fans was something entirely new, and proof that heat-of-the-moment reactions can sometimes cost you more than any red card. Salomon Kalou. Back in 2008, Salomon Kalou scored for Chelsea and celebrated by crossing his arms with Didier Drogba in front of the cameras. At first, it looked like just another stylish teammate celebration, until journalists pointed out it mirrored a political gesture used in Ivory Coast. Some saw it as support for a jailed politician during the country's crisis at the time. Chelsea had to step in quickly, insisting it wasn't political, just spontaneous joy between friends. But the photo had already gone global, sparking headlines about politics entering football. Kalou never repeated the gesture again. It became a reminder that in the Premier League, where millions are watching, even a small, subtle gesture can create stories players never intended to tell. Francesco Totti. Few players wore their hearts on their sleeves like Francesco Totti, or in his case, under his shirt. In 2005, after scoring for Roma, he lifted his jersey to reveal a shirt that read Liberat Giuliana, a message supporting an Italian journalist kidnapped in Iraq. It was emotional, but FIFA's rules are strict: no political, religious, or personal messages on shirts. Totti was fined and warned by the federation. He defended it as an act of humanity, not politics, and many fans agreed. Still, it raised an age-old question: when does a football pitch become a platform? For Totti, that day proved that even good intentions can break the rules, and that passion and politics rarely mix cleanly in football. Luis Suarez. Luis Suarez is known for many things: goals, drama, and that trademark wrist kiss he performs after scoring. It started as a sweet tribute to his wife and children, a family gesture that became his personal brand. But during his fiery spell at Liverpool, that innocent celebration took on a darker edge. After scoring against Everton in 2012, just months after being banned for racially abusing Patrice Evra, Suarez kissed his wrist and taunted the opposition fans, smirking as they hurled abuse. To Liverpool supporters, it was confidence. To everyone else, arrogance. It reignited debates about his temperament and whether he understood the impact of his actions. The kiss never changed, but its meaning did. For some, it was love. For others, pure provocation. And it showed how even a harmless gesture can turn controversial when the man behind it is already under fire. Wayne Rooney. Football fans have long memories, and Wayne Rooney found that out the hard way. In 2007, he returned to his boyhood club, Everton, wearing the red of Manchester United. Boos rained down, banners called him a traitor, so when he scored at Goodison Park, he turned to the home crowd, grabbed the United badge on his chest, and kissed it with pride. It was simple, but brutal. A message that said, "I've moved on." The stadium erupted with anger. To Everton fans, it felt like betrayal rubbed in their faces. To United supporters, it was passion. It became one of Rooney's most iconic images, not for the goal itself, but for the firestorm it lit off the pitch. A single kiss that turned love into hatred and a boyhood hero into a lifelong villain in his hometown. Arjen Robben. When Arjen Robben scored for Chelsea in 2006, the last thing he expected was to end the match in the dressing room. After firing in a goal against Sunderland, Robben sprinted toward the away fans, slid on his knees. The referee, following the letter of the law, showed him a second yellow card, meaning Robben was sent off for celebrating his own goal. The crowd was stunned. Even the commentators couldn't believe it, but it became a defining example of how strict football's celebration rules had become. Robben laughed about it later, but that day proved that sometimes the emotion of scoring is so powerful, even logic goes out the window. Miles Lewis-Skelly. In 2025, Arsenal's young prospect Miles Lewis-Skelly scored a goal against Man City, and instead of running to celebrate, he sat down on the pitch, legs crossed, eyes closed, and began to meditate. The pose instantly went viral. Some loved it, a show of calmness under pressure. Others thought it mocked the opposition. Clips flooded TikTok, fans debated its meaning, and pundits called it the modern footballer's meme moment. The Premier League even considered whether mocking meditation celebrations could count as unsporting behavior. It wasn't banned, but it sparked a new kind of controversy, not about politics or violence, but about attitude. A reminder that in today's social media era, a celebration doesn't have to offend anyone to start a storm. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Finally, one of football's most playful, yet surprisingly divisive, celebrations. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, one of the most charismatic forwards of his generation, loved giving fans a show. After scoring for Borussia Dortmund, he'd pull on a Batman or Spider-Man mask hidden behind the goal, striking poses like a comic book hero. Fans adored it, kids loved it, but UEFA didn't. Officials warned him for unauthorized equipment and non-football messages, threatening fines if he did it again. Aubameyang defended it as fun, saying, "It's for my son, he loves superheroes." For once, the controversy wasn't angry or political, it was about expression, and that's what made it special. A perfect ending to the list, showing that celebrations don't always have to offend to make headlines. Sometimes, they just remind us why football is the world's greatest theater. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, you will love this one.